Hi there, it's Vanessa from Cove, and you're listening to the 80th edition of The Networker. This week, we're exploring what networking actually demands of us when the noise dies down. Not tactics, not tools, not platforms, the fundamentals. Consistency over time, curiosity over performance, relationships built long before they are needed, and the quiet discipline of showing up, listening well, and knowing when to let go of what you cannot control. This edition is about the behaviors that compound into a career, a reputation, and a life well connected. So let's dive in. We begin with a piece by Cindy Mackles for Forbes Business Council that reframes networking not as an event, but as a compounding habit. Mackles, who networks 2 to 3 times a week, is clear that the return is not immediate. The value appears later when someone thinks of you for an opportunity, makes an introduction, or recalls a conversation you barely remember having. What she describes is less a strategy and more a discipline. Curiosity goes further than confidence. Follow-up matters more than the first impression. And consistency, showing up generously and without agenda, is what eventually shifts you from someone who attends events to someone who gets invited to the ones that matter. The message is direct. Stop overthinking it. Start showing up. That discipline of showing up connects to a deeper challenge explored by Lynn Williams in her piece on what bad networking teaches us about using AI in a job search. Drawing on the expertise of communications coach Stacey Moore, the article makes a point that is easy to miss. The frustration people feel when AI produces vague, impersonal, off-target output is the same frustration they have felt in bad networking conversations for years. The problem is not the tool, it is the communication. Clarity of intent, sufficient context, and human judgment in the loop are what make both conversations and AI interactions actually useful. In a job market flooded with AI-generated resumes and cover letters, the professionals who stand out are the ones who stay present in their own story. Staying present in your own story across years and across companies is what Alana Muller captures in her piece for BizWomen. The story of Sunny, who was told at 25 that she lacked the experience and professional maturity for a senior role, is a study in long game thinking. She did not disappear. She built deliberately. She maintained genuine relationships with former colleagues and bosses, not transactionally, but consistently. A decade later, that continuity was the foundation of trust that landed her a VP role before a formal process was even complete. The lesson is precise. Your network is not what you activate when you need something. It is what you have been building the entire time. Building something without an agenda is exactly what makes Becky Luther's story so striking. Reported by Talk Business, Luther was a nurse practitioner and single mother with no intention of becoming a networker. She simply wanted to bring people together. Her Hive networking NWA group grew to more than 17,800 members. Her in-person events regularly draw hundreds of attendees. People report doubling and tripling their business after joining. What built all of this was not strategy. It was her consistent belief that successful networking means thinking about what you can do for others rather than what others can do for you. In a landscape full of manufactured communities, Luther's story is a reminder that the most powerful networks are the ones built from genuine generosity. Generosity, however, requires presence, and presence requires listening. A new study from the University of Minnesota, covered by The Independent, challenges one of the most widely held assumptions in professional development. Introverts, long considered the natural listeners of the workplace, are not actually better listeners than extroverts. In some cases, extroverts performed slightly better. The researchers found that effective listening has nothing to do with personality type. It is a set of observable behaviors: staying present, resisting the urge to interrupt, responding in ways that show genuine engagement. The implication is significant. If listening is a skill rather than a trait, it can be practiced, measured, and improved by anyone. In a world where most people are waiting to speak, the ability to truly listen may be the most undervalued professional advantage there is. That gap between what leaders perceive and what their people actually experience sits at the center of Jenny Fernandez's piece for Harvard Business Review. Drawing on McKinsey research showing that roughly 70% of transformation efforts fail, Fernandez argues that the root cause is almost never a flawed business case. It is leaders who misread silence as alignment, dismiss concerns as complaints, and genuinely cannot see the disconnect between their intended impact and their actual one. The fix is not an emotional intelligence workshop. It is structured, repeated practice, reality audits, micro debriefs, skip level focus groups, systems that make it safe and normal for people to say what they actually think. The organizations that get transformation right are not the ones with the best strategy decks. They are the ones where leaders have built enough relational trust that truth travels upward. Before we wrap up, let's turn to this week's recommendations. Our book of the week is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins and Sawyer Robbins. The premise is deceptively simple. Most of the energy we waste in relationships, at work, and in life goes toward trying to control what other people think, feel, choose, and do. 2 words, let them, are the reset. When you stop managing what you cannot control, something clarifying happens. You see your own choices more clearly. Your relationships become less exhausting and more honest, and the energy you recover can go towards something that actually moves. In a world that rewards busyness and confuses effort with control, this book is a useful correction. And our podcast of the week is Learn to Disagree More Effectively from the HBR IdeaCast, featuring Julia Minson, professor at the Harvard Kennedy School. Minson's argument is precise. Productive disagreement is not a personality trait. It is a behavioral skill. And the most important behavior is not how you express your own view. It is how visibly and consistently you engage with the view of the person across from you. She calls this receptiveness. And her research shows that leaders who demonstrate it are seen as stronger, not weaker. Teams where disagreement is modeled well make better decisions, surface risks earlier, and retain the people most likely to tell the truth. The goal of a constructive disagreement, she says, is not consensus. It is that both parties want to talk to each other again. That is a standard worth building toward. Last but not least, don't miss out on the 2026 EPIC International Summit, taking place April 27-29 in Santa Barbara. This experience brings together global thought leaders, executives, educators, artists, and entrepreneurs who are willing to explore complexity, question assumptions, and learn alongside one another. Through interactive workshops, panels, and experiential sessions, participants will engage with ideas that spark curiosity, invite collaboration, and open new, innovative ways of thinking. Learn more and register at epicimpactsociety.org/2026-summit. That's all for the 80th edition of The Networker. The thread running through every story this week is deceptively simple. The relationships that matter are not built in a single room or a single conversation. They are built through consistency, curiosity, and the discipline of showing up without an agenda. Listening well, staying connected before you need to be, letting go of what you cannot control, and creating the kind of environment where people feel safe enough to tell you what is actually true. Until next time, stay connected, stay deliberate, and remember, your network is not defined by how many people you reach. It is defined by how intentionally you build. And don't forget, the full edition of The Networker is waiting for you in your inbox. I'll see you next time.